Hello everybody and welcome back to our exclusive video series of Consultus Chat. Today we are going to be discussing the energy markets and energy purchasing, and I've got with me our Head of Global Trades, Paul Gleaves. Paul, if you want to give a bit of an overview of your background in the industry.
Yeah, so my name is Paul Gleaves. Head of Global Trades at Consultus. I've been in the industry a long time now, probably 13, 14 years, something like that. So had a number of roles, largely in the sort of the risk management and trading space, but also been involved on PPA contracts, procurement, done some consultancy work as well. So really, you name it, I've done it really.
Well, good to have you. To get us started, could you just give us a bit of an overview of the current market conditions that customers are facing and potentially how you see things going over the next few months?
Yeah, so it's been an interesting period, probably over the last 12 months really. Markets have been pretty bearish. That's to say that the markets have been falling. That's largely been driven by very comfortable gas storage levels. We've had two consecutive benign winters, and also LNG, global LNG, that's liquefied natural gas supply. The global gas market has been very well supplied. Probably over the last month or so, we've probably seen the first real entrance of some sort of supporting factors to the market, probably for the first time since sort of October time, and again that's really been driven largely by concerns over future of LNG supply. So in terms of where the markets are likely to go in the future, it does feel like we may have hit a bit of a price floor, although there is a chance that prices could get quite low this summer. But I think if you're looking from sort of October onwards, there's definitely some support to market. So if you are looking to buy, it's probably not a bad time to get into the market.
Okay, brilliant. Obviously over the last few years we've seen markets go extremely high. It was a very troubling time for a lot of customers.
It was for me as well, to be honest with you.
So now it thankfully looks like we're coming out the back end of that. What are the opportunities you see for customers going forwards?
Well, I think for customers who are on fixed price contracts, who've maybe contracted 12 to 18 months ago, 24 months ago, it's a really good time to get into the market, get those contracted and effectively lock in the price falls that we've seen and bank those savings. Similarly, if you're on if you're a flexible customer who buys off the market and you do have significant exposure going into the future, then again, I would say it's a good time to get into the market and protect your position.
Great. And just within that, you've mentioned the difference, the options of fixed and flexible purchasing. For those that may not know, can you give us a little overview of what the difference is between a fixed and a flexible contract?
Yeah, sure. So so effectively, a fixed contract, it's a classic sort of utilities contract where you lock in all of your energy, all of your non-energy costs on a single day. Generally it's split out into a day rate or a night rate, a day rate and a night rate when it's electricity and a standing charge, very similar to what you have on your domestic bill. Gives very good price security. You know exactly what you're going to pay, and all you have to really worry about is how much energy you're going to use. So accountants, finance people love it, but there is a counter point to that, is that you can see it as being quite risky, because you are taking a single shot. You're having to take that particular day's market view and hope that when you look back on that decision in a year, 2 years time, that in very uncertain market conditions, that ends up being a good procurement decision. A flexible contract works slightly differently, or very differently actually, in terms of you lock in actually a very small amount of your forward costs on the day that you sign the contract, and you have the opportunity to trade your energy in a multiple, using multiple tranches, buying different periods. So effectively it introduces the concept of price hedging, the ability to be able to spread your risk by making a number of procurement decisions rather than a single one.
Okay. I've had it described to me in the past, similar as a mortgage. You get options on a mortgage. Is that something you'd agree with?
Yeah, absolutely. It's just it's a more complex way of procuring, but it effectively enables you to spread your risk rather than as you locking into a fixed interest rate, which again, given how volatile interest rates are at the moment, you might query whether or not you'd want to do that at the moment.
Sure. Can anybody get a flexible contract?
There are restrictions, particularly if you want to get a standalone flexible contract. Generally, these products are positioned more for more energy intensive users. However, there are, ourselves at Consultus, we do have a number of sort of portfolio based products which would allow multiple like-minded businesses to sort of pull their volume together and buy collectively. So we have the Consultus Buying Club, the CBC, and we have the Consultus Energy Fund as well, which again we call the CEF. And what these products effectively enable you to do is to buy collaboratively and access flexible risk managed solutions.
Okay, so for a customer that's not big enough to buy flexibly on their own, say a medium enterprise customer, so their option is to join the CBC, for example, what are the benefits of that customer doing that?
Yeah, well, firstly, I suppose it goes back to the point I mentioned previously. It opens up the ability to risk manage your position and hedge your position going forward. The product works effectively in two streams, one of which is called Market Tracker, which is a fix-unfix solution. So when the market goes up, the product will seek to protect your position, and when the market falls, then it may seek to unwind the position in the hope that you may be able to benefit from future falls in the market. We also have a more risk-averse solution, which is called Budget Guard, which effectively works along a stop-loss methodology, meaning that at the day that we start tracking the market, if the market hits a certain threshold, it will immediately lock out fully your position. So it will give you the ability to benefit from falls in the market, but at the same time gives you a clear budget position at the point that we start tracking. I suppose the other benefit of the CBC as well is that all of the energy comes from PPA-backed sources. So effectively it gives you the opportunity to benefit from highly sustainable energy from a renewable asset delivered directly into your contract, but without all of the very time-intensive nature of those sorts of products. No need for extensive legal reviews or the necessity to have very high quality credit. So it gives a lot of the benefits of a full PPA, but without having to invest so much time and resource into getting that.
Yeah, that's something that customers are asking us more and more about with power purchase agreements, and one of their barriers tends to be the lengthy legal process to go through. So is that arrangement in the CBC clusters better than getting REGO backed through your supply contract?
Yeah, it is. The main reason being that if all suppliers will offer a REGO-backed solution, but the truth is that the energy itself could have come from anywhere, and that's why we consider the CBC solution to be, in terms from a sustainability credentials point of view, to be far superior than a standard REGO-backed offer, because ultimately you are getting the energy and you are getting the green certification, the REGOs, from together. So don't want to get overly technical, but basically you get the energy and the certification bundled together. You're getting bona fide green energy and certification to match, so that energy is 100% green.
Great. And I think we'll talk a bit more about power purchase agreements as we go through, but just before we move on to that side of things, I've heard customers say in the past that flexible purchasing sounds too risky, and they're looking at convincing their boss that it's not a risky option. What would you say to a customer who has those thoughts?
Well, I suppose it goes back to a point that I made previously, really, is that it kind of goes back to the, when you, I would always describe fixed price procurement as being a single bullet strategy, meaning that, effectively, you have one shot at it, and you better make sure you hit the bullseye, really, because otherwise, this same person is going to be going back to their boss, having to say that they've made, why to explain why their competitors have secured superior rates than they've been able to. So the advantage of flex is that you're able to spread your risk, make multiple purchasing decisions, and therefore, it's not always about getting the very best price, but it's about making sure that you will always avoid getting a bad price. I think, again, what a lot of our customers are concerned about is, with regards to budgeting, it makes that process a bit more complicated, because you also have to feed in on certain products, you might have to consider, long-term forecasting of things like non-energy costs. But again, I would always just say that as long as you are, working with a good consultant for a start, but also all of these things can be forecasted, all of these things can be modelled out. So, it adds a layer of complexity to the process. But, that's what businesses such as ourselves are there for. And there's no reason whatsoever why a well-managed, well-run flex contract with a risk-managed solution, over time will deliver better results than a fixed price contract. And, it enables you to manage your long-term costs, because ultimately it means that you can have in place a 3, even if, we have clients who will contract out up to 5 years, and it basically means that you can on a rolling basis manage your long-term position, and I suppose get rid of those big deltas between budget years, which is what really clients are all looking to avoid. So, that's why I'm probably a bit of a zealot when it comes to flexible procurement, but I think anyone who has access to those sorts of products should at least consider them.
Okay, and so in terms of a customer from different demographics, so for example, our advice to a small to medium enterprise compared to a larger I&C customer, would our advice change to them?
Well, I suppose it comes down to optionality, really, in terms of, if you're at the lower end of the market, chances are you've not got the access to some of the standalone products, and you're probably not going to have access to some of the more advanced products. So in effect, your choice might be slightly more limited. So it may well be that a basket, or I try to avoid the term basket, but a portfolio based product.
Consortium.
A consortium, we'll go with that. May be the only solution they've got, or certainly the optimum solution that they would have available to them. At the top end of the market, well, you've got loads of options. So, it may be that you're looking to fix your non-energy costs. It might be that you're looking to have those all pass through. We'd also delve a little bit more detail into risk appetite. So, if we're onboarding a client, or if we're undertaking a review, we'll often have a risk workshop with all of the key stakeholders within the business to try and find the optimum solution based on the risk appetites of the business. So yes, the thought process should be very similar, regardless of the size of your consumption. But it generally comes down to complexity and the options that you've got available to you.
Yeah, great. So it sounds like it's important for customers to understand their options, and then have a consultant to make sure that they build a strategy that is suited to their business and their aspirations. So it's certainly not a one-size-fits-all approach.
No, absolutely not. And I think a lot of businesses have probably been doing, the same thing for 10 years, and it's always worth, testing the marketplace and seeing if there's anything else out there.
Real. I'd like to just sort of take it back to some of the things we mentioned earlier on, particularly around power purchase agreements. It's something that I'm certainly hearing a lot more about. Customers are asking me a lot more about as they look to balance their energy purchasing and their sustainability goals. So just give us an overview of what a power purchase agreement, or a PPA, is, for those that may have heard the term but are not completely sure around what it actually means.
Yeah, so I mean, in basic terms, a power purchase agreement gives you, as the buyer, the ability to buy renewably sourced energy directly from a renewable generation asset. So, normally through, a solar or wind farm. And yeah, effectively there is a direct physical link between that renewable asset and you as the buyer. So generally if we talk about it, we won't go into the difference between physical and financial PPAs, but if we just think about a physical PPA, that energy will be delivered directly from the wind farm into your supply contract at a agreed price and for an agreed term. I've made that sound very simple, but in terms of getting to that point, it is a very, very complex process.
So why are so many customers interested in these at the moment?
Well, I think it's all driven by the conversations around net zero, which is feeding far, far more into a lot of our clients and businesses across the globe's conversations. And because PPAs are seen as being right at the top tier, really, of outside of having on-site generation, so rooftop solar, which as we know isn't always suitable due to logistical reasons to a lot of businesses. This is probably seen as being the greenest way, or the most sustainable way, of procuring green energy via a supply contract. So we are inundated with queries around PPAs, and one of the key things that we're able to do, I suppose, is to listen to clients, understand what they're looking to achieve, understand their portfolio, and then really try to lay out exactly what their options are.
So you mentioned we've got an option there for customers via our CBC to get access to a PPA backed product. If a customer wants to have their own direct PPA, what are the key things they would need to allow that to happen?
Yeah, so and again, we hear a lot about PPAs. We know that our customers hear a lot about PPAs and want to know more about them. But the truth is that in the current market, a PPA is just not suitable, or it's not possible to be achieved for a lot of customers, and that's because there is a lot of challenges, a lot of barriers to get through. But the main things that you need is the ability to contract long term. Generally, a PPA will be or a standalone PPA will be for a minimum of 10 years. Okay. You need to have investment grade credit. Bank guarantees are pretty much a standard on these types of contracts, so you have to be willing to put up some form of credit mitigation as well. And I suppose the other main thing that you need to have is some significant legal resource as well, and I suppose a degree of patience as well, to be honest with you, because these are lengthy documents. They're lengthy. It's a lengthy process to go along, and it can take between 6 to 12 months to negotiate a PPA. Okay,
and what about from a volume point of view? Can anyone access a PPA?
I knew I'd miss one thing out, so as a general rule, I mean, you need to think, as a general rule, a PPA, you wouldn't want to take more than 50 to 75% of your total consumption, because that can open up some market risk if your consumption was to fall in the longer term. You do get projects starting at around, I don't know, the 20 gig sort of mark. So really you would need to have a volume of 30 to 40 gig even to be able to start a year, that is, even to start looking at the market. But generally, we would see corporate customers of 50, 60 gigawatt hours plus who would typically be able to access these types of products. But we're always working with suppliers to get that threshold down. And if you were able to take from an operational asset, you probably could get, if you were around 25, 30 gig, that's probably the absolute bottom of the market in order to get a standalone PPA.
So it sounds to me as though it's similar to whether a customer would purchase fixed or flexibly. There are different options in the world of PPAs as well. So, and there are limitations and to a customer just getting a PPA, but it sounds like there are also options through the likes of the CBC products. So again, you were just imploring customers to understand their options and for a consultant to understand what customers are looking for to find the right package in their overall energy contract, essentially.
That's exactly that. So it's about understanding the client, understanding what they're trying to achieve, understanding their volume commitments and their portfolio, and then matching the two together to find the right solution.
Brilliant. Thanks very much for your time, Paul. We've obviously covered quite a lot in a short period of time, and there's quite a lot for you to digest and in some quite complex areas. So if there is anything that you've heard today that you want a bit more detail on, then please do reach out to us and get in touch, and we'd be happy to have a conversation and see how we could help. Thanks very much.